the Mobility Bureau at the Security Committee, the Community Development, and the Technical Task Force. We are.
Thank you for such analysis evidence to the government. So lifestyle transition. The perspective. I think, but in this studio or in this agenda, right? Especially about my brother Alan. I would say weeks they have within what are their perceptions in the manufacturing okay, all those animation electric car going that way. Maybe just
is different, and the reason in Kampala had improved by even up to 90%. And the reason in Kampala had improved by even up to 90% in some areas.
Actually, just to interject a bit, I don't know if you've seen when you come from other districts, and you're getting into Kampala, the air
even that coffee
changes.
Yeah, so there is that, and over 12,000 deaths annually attributed to respiratory-related ailments, dominantly caused by particulate matter from vehicles. So there is that side of things, and government spends a lot of money in hospitals treating those ailments. But then there is the other side of the very beautiful cake, of that if you're trying to make money and you haven't made it, some of these social discussions of the environmental stewardship are relegated to the bottom. First survive, then we'll figure out the environment later.
Yeah.
So does it also make sense for, say, a border rider? Because you can't tell the border rider the reason you should transition is such that you don't pollute. No, he needs food on the plate.
Yeah.
So is it better for them? Now, e-mobility, if you compare an electric vehicle, let's take an example of the motorcycle, because many people know the border.
Yeah.
Very many people use the border. So you have a border that uses petrol on this side, and the border that uses electricity on this side. Just the mechanics of it, you have removed an engine, you have removed the fuel tank, and the entire system in between. And you replace it with a motor, and right now there's a fan rotating there.
Yeah.
That motor and the battery. If you've ever sat in an electric vehicle, an electric motorcycle, these vibrations you feel are not there. And these vibrations actually also impact the health of the rider over time. So they go in hospitals more. And even their limbs start becoming a bit compromised. Now, when you look at our president likes to say the Chibaro, when you do the Chibaro of these two, you'll find that the rider is taking back home more money in their pocket, because the money they're using to just swap a battery is about 6,000, 9,000 shillings for 80 to 100 kilometers, compared to the fuel they're consuming. More money is added to their pocket. So now the conversation with these in terms of uptake is on what value does it bring to you. You look at the bus, it's up to 80% cheaper to operate over a flight than it is all equivalent, and the taxis. So when you look at this, and that's why the beauty is that our transition has been mainly focused on the commercial side, the borders, the buses. And that's very interesting, because the mathematics makes sense over the life of the vehicle. Matters might be expensive, like for the bus to acquire at the start, but for a private owner, you're not using it to make money. So the price component is very important. So with that in mind, now the way we went in now to educate and help the masses appreciate is from that angle. It's not from the angle of this is good for the environment. No. So our journey as Uganda in e-mobility actually started a long time ago, in 2007 at Makerere University. And that journey has evolved over this time to the point where we are now. In 2019, we had a few players like Zembo and Gogo or Border Work that were doing electric two-wheelers. And they worked with a few riders. One, to refine the technology, but also to help them appreciate what it is they are doing. And it's those riders that then spread the message. So the word of mouth becomes very important. Now, the programs we have put in place as government, on the commercial vehicle side, on the buses side, we have funded a program to skill e-bus operators. Because our target in the e-mobility strategy is to deploy at least 15,000 electric buses by in the country. These 15,000 buses require drivers. Now, most of the people are driving taxis. How do we get them ready and create that mentality? Because for an owner, the owner is not necessarily the one who rides the bus. But the opinion of the rider is very, very strong to sway the owner on which bus to buy. Those are the influencers of purchase decisions. So we have a program and we have trained over 300 bus operators and have upgraded them to operate an electric bus, enabling them to understand the technology. So the myths that come with an electric, talk about will it shock you? Not something as simple as that.
Yeah.
You know, the bus on a hill, will it go up? So they actually get in and they ride and they feel the difference. And that has helped us to start shifting the needle towards appreciation. Now, the other thing we are doing as well is on the technician side, because the other people that have a very strong impact on the purchase decision. If you were to buy a car, who will you ask? The mechanic.
The mechanic.
And that's, I'm thinking of buying
You
this.
also have to think about what is it? How you're going to fix the car.
The
I'm saying
spare
that, like you
parts.
talked about the money. Before you reach certain levels of money, when you're buying the car, you think about and then how you're going to
Does it die a lot? Can my mechanic fix it? Now you see, like the likes of the two-wheeler space, the key players there, Zembo, Gogo, are actually working with border that people know. So Zembo is working with Sim Automotives for their boss, which is one of the most popular border. So it's things with spare parts, repairs, everything. It's already there. The ecosystem already exists. So they're not worried about my bike fails. Will I be able to get, say, a tire replaced, a light, and things like that? Now, for the buses side, we are also working on a program for technicians. How would we help these technicians who are in public, the bus technicians, because most of these operators, you can actually have their own technicians, but also these other garages that might be able to support. So working on that program as well, and will also be the first phase will be fully funded. So the bus operator program was free. Government fully paid for that. Even this one want to do it free for the first phase and then commercialize it after. So I've been taking very intentional steps on the awareness side of uptake. How do we show, not just talk about these vehicles and the value they bring? How do we demonstrate it? So that then from there, it's word of mouth that moves, and word of mouth spreads like a wildfire.
Exactly. All right, that's very enlightening. And back to EPRC. What regional or global fiscal incentive could Uganda adapt to promote green mobility? And I don't know if it's possible for you to kind of break it down for them into Wawansi to see how they can also be. You know, sometimes when you're talking about these things, they seem so technical, so up there in the clouds. Yeah. But how does the everyday person that you're talking about, the technician, the border rider, how does that trickle to that point?
Yes, thank you so much for that question. Well, before I respond to that, I just want to let you know that in the study that we conducted at EPRC, we did talk to the Muntu-Wawansi. Yes, so getting their perceptions and their opinions. And overall, the findings do show the perception is high, and the willingness to adopt is high, but key issues come out, things like affordability. Okay, and very many of them say they are unable to afford, and that is why he did mention the business model has moved to getting into the commercial side and offering maybe to the borders and also the buses, and offering a service rather than you purchasing it. But it's very important to note that it is true that EVs are very expensive, okay, when you're to purchase them. And the ones that are coming largely into Africa are second-hand EVs, which are also more expensive than the normal ones in the market. So what exactly can we do, and what have other countries done, to promote the EVs market and the space so that the uptake is high? I'll give you a case study of Rwanda. Okay, So Rwanda did zero rate its import of EVs. Okay. Now we had done that in 2023, I think, but we reinstated them to the 25% import tax to protect our domestic manufacturers. Yes, that is true. However, concerns have come in, especially on the EVs that we do not manufacture yet as a country. Okay, so what Rwanda did, it has a timeline through which they would let the EVs come at zero rate, and then they will impose the taxes after the level of motorization has increased. Okay, so it's very important that people look at the EVs in the streets, that we have enough charging infrastructure so that people can appreciate. So there has been an issue, I always call it the chicken egg problem. An example is setting up EV infrastructure is very expensive and very costly. Private investors also on the side of the government would not want to set up a facility when there is no market for it. And also the normal person, Muntu would not want to buy something if there is no charging or swapping station. You know, in our study, we moved across different, within Kampala, Wakiso, up to Jinja, talking to some border riders, and they said they would not, you know, because of the locality where they are, they would not afford to have it because they are quite far from the swapping stations. So that is an issue, and we can't put the swapping stations or charging stations everywhere because of finances. So what exactly can we do as a country? What exactly can we learn? Yes. So just to pick up the study of Rwanda, it has been very intentional about setting up infrastructure and attracting investors or investments from other countries, which it has done so well through, you know, being able to tap into things like climate finance and green finance, being able to write fundable proposals to be able to tap into it. I think this is something that the private sector can work in conjunction with the climate finance unit at the Ministry of Finance to be able to support our private sector to write fundable proposals to tap into these funds, but also to be able to attract investors. One of the key things that came out of the study that we did is investor confidence, especially amongst the private sector, is a little low because of I would say we put remove the taxes, we put it back, so there is that uncertainty, which I think Rwanda really came out through, and they decided that we are going to let this have an EV policy and implement it. Well, Uganda does not have an EV policy yet. We have a strategy, the plan that you talked about, the strategy, which is guiding us. So having all these things, not only on paper, but disseminated effectively amongst the private sector players, it's very crucial so that they can not only appreciate what the government is doing, but be confident enough to be able to invest into it. And there's something that he did mention, I think, or I read somewhere in the reports about the uptake of EVs. You can see the uptake of EVs has mostly been in the motorcycle industry. And the key thing is because, one, they're affordable. And then the second thing, they are visual. We always see them and we can easily appreciate them. Okay. So the other thing for the personal cars, we did talk about commercial, but I want to talk about the personal cars. They are hybrid EVs, where, you know, consumers are more cautious. I will have an electric component, but also I need a backup plan. Yes, and all these things of anxiety of what if I reach a certain place and there is no charging point. So these other issues should be, you know, taken into consideration even as we walk through and learn, and that is what countries like Rwanda and also Kenya have done so well. Yes.
All right, that's interesting. To know that some of our neighbors are moving ahead with that. And when you speak about EVs, I think the only manufacturer I know is Kia Motors. And the time I saw the car, it seems so it's like it takes up a lot of space. And we're talking about like the whole system that you need. Because I don't know if it's in the, what do they call it? Or in the, I'm going to use the funny language.
So that,
The sedan, yes. The front bit is so like lengthy to put in all that technology. So what now to FTI? I know that it as you mentioned, it would be faster for you to progress that or to push the agenda through the commercial side. But what about the passenger vehicle? The what would now speak probably to the elites, most of the people in this room or in this most of the corporate space. We want all those fancy cars, but EV, what it's giving us is, I mean, Kira Motors, what it's giving us is some seemingly bulky car. So what innovations or what notable local innovations or what's happening in that space to push that agenda also to the personal side?
The level you're talking about, I think, was a concept vehicle that was released in 2014. But Kira Motors now has focused on manufacturing buses to start. But so the e-mobility strategy is actually enshrined within the energy policy of Uganda. So there is a section on sustainable mobility where we are growing the interventions we are putting in place. But we have also been on a very systematic, well thought through journey. Because one thing that is very important is how do we enhance our capacity to purchase, for example. Because we're talking about these passenger vehicles. Uganda's motorization rate in terms of number of vehicles per 1,000 inhabitants is just 13. 13 vehicles per 1,000 people. In the previous census at household level, I think over 96% of households don't own cars. So it's just about 4-6% households where a car exists in the parking lot. So the question would be then, what should be the priority for government? Yeah. The cars are just here in the city. You go out and you will see more taxis and more border. So people are actually leveraging public transport. So how do we ensure we have a very sustainable public transport system so that even you, Josephine, who has the car, can leave it at home and not contribute to the traffic congestion on our roads? So that is a very intentional strategy. If you look at our e-mobility strategy, it is the order in which those priority areas, the 7 priority areas is in the order of their importance. So local manufacturing is at the top, and the location of the parts, especially the battery, and then electrification of public transport. And our target for public transport is not just electrify it, it is to make it modern as well. So we have actually worked on a pilot in Jinja City, where we have established the e-bus express, which is funded by the government. And it's now we're working on what is that right model we can use, because going out there and picking a model and bring it here has failed. Can we develop our own, which integrates the incumbent taxi operators, which integrates cashless ticketing systems that have a bearing on mobile money payments, for example, and ease of access? How do we integrate scheduling? And our friends in Jinja and Uganda have been enjoying this service since November, and it's working well. Now we're seeing how we scale it to the rest of the country. So that has been a very intentional strategy. Is that we have done the analysis and we have realized that to actually address the fundamental gap for the Muntu Bulijjo or Muntu Wansi, we need to address issues of public transport. Now, one other thing that becomes very important to also note is that if you're doing, say, production of a motorcycle, the investment you're looking at can't be comparable to a passenger vehicle. The passenger vehicles I was talking about, 85% of the passenger vehicles we import are used cars. I know you also had challenges when you got the 15-year and 8 years for warehousing. So they are predominantly used cars. So even the volume of new cars is really small. It is the likes of government, agencies like PRA, companies like PRC that can afford to go buy a new car. The average Ugandan will go and buy themselves a used car of about 10, 15 years old.
Yeah.
So that's the other challenge we're dealing with. Now, if you're looking at the level of investment to say set up an assembly facility for a vehicle, and you're comparing it to a motorcycle, because the mathematics there is day and night. But also because Kira Motors pivoted along the way, commercial vehicles to the buses.
Yeah.
And that was predominantly because of the need. Because if you're doing a new car, because we are getting about 60,000 vehicles, only about 10% of those are new, and new zero mileage. And of that, Toyota has a big chunk, and you're competing in a very small niche. It's going to take you time to get to the point where you can do market penetration regional. But the bus is that the beauty with the bus is, first of all, the extent of automation is low. So you're actually employing more people. But also the investment you're putting in is not as high. Because a bus is typically flat surfaces. So these things to do with stamping, equipment, and all that is not there. So it's easy for you to move there. So you're sticking off many boxes. The impact for the Ugandan, for the average Ugandan, the investment requirement is not so high, and you can quickly start. Technology is there. You have built it over time. Now that we have tackled that and it's working well, now we are looking at now the passenger vehicles. Because in terms of priority, the other ones were higher priority. Now we are tackling the problem of the passenger vehicle. And very soon something will be coming out of the kitchen, which should address the elites. Yes.
All right, we look forward.
So just something small on the passenger vehicles. It's important to note that the batteries do have a lifetime. They actually, an average lifetime of about 15 years. So when you do import them, the battery in has been driven. We say most of them are second-hand passenger vehicles. So it might have been driven for about 5 to 10 years. That means you import the car and you have like you have like 5 years, and the average cost of batteries, it has dropped, but it's about I would say $10,000 if you're to get a battery car for the EVs. So that is almost equivalent to another, a second-hand EV.
So at that point, you leave that car and get another car.
Yeah. So there's also that issue. I know as we are pushing in for e-mobility, we have to be cognizant of the fact that these batteries, if they are not replaced before they come, we have to, we're going to spend more money importing the batteries. Yes.
Actually, I would say it will be a damping back.
Yes.
And you also raises a very important issue or point on the cost. Passenger vehicle. So for the motorcycles, they have figured out removing the cost of the battery from the equation by doing swapping. So when you buy the bike, you're not buying the battery. Because the battery is the most expensive component of the vehicle. In some cases, going up to 60% of the cost of the vehicle. The bus, the beauty of the bus is that you can look at financing for a bus. Get a bank, UDP, wherever, and you can get good financing, and over 8 years, 5 years, you're paying back. And you're making money while, so the business is paying the asset. But the passenger vehicle, it's a salary. And these vehicles are expensive right now. They're still expensive. Of course, the gap keeps shrinking, but it is still there. So that is also, and China is the one that has managed to figure out the dynamics of the cost, but also it's because they're doing huge volumes. Yeah. By the time you get those huge volumes, so there's still a lot to be done on the passenger vehicle side, especially technology, to get it to the point where it's affordable for the end user. It might not be at the price of a used car. It's not, I don't think it's possible to get at the price of a used car, but it can be fairly affordable at par with the petrol.
All right. So as the tax person or taxman or tax collector, I would like to go back to tax policy, especially as we talk to our researcher. How can tax policy strike a balance between revenue generation and long-term environmental goals? I know you spoke about how we've been changing. Sometimes it's zero rated, then it goes back, you know. So, what advice do you have for us as the tax collectors, as we advise, or as people that report to the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, who are a key part in forming this policy and also part of the collaboration we spoke about? What's your advice? What's your take on that?
Okay, thank you so much. I think one of I'll just give you one, which is very key and broadly explain it. One of this is to ensure that the incentives that we are putting into place actually do translate to the last mile. Here I am bringing it in this way. Okay? So we did, as a country, zero rate, I would say EV charging infrastructure, okay? And swapping equipment if you're to import and install. But there is more to it than just putting it there as a policy and all. What is the uptake from the private sector? How is the private sector responding to this? Is one thing that is key. Okay? And in our study, we do find out that there are issues concerning the transformer load. Okay? So if you want to set up an example in Chireka, an EV charging infrastructure, well, you bought it, the URA has sorted it out, and you want to set up. The transformers that we have, I would say, overloaded, especially within the urban areas, whereby in the evening when people turn on the TVs and the screen, you can literally see the light dimming. Okay, and yet these transformers do need, the EV infrastructure do need sufficient, load to be able to power. So the thing comes in, they have to, either upgrade the transformer or, request for a newer transformer to, add to the one which is existing. So the things that came out are the process, getting a transformer. Okay. So if you do convince finally an investor to come and invest in the country, and he says, I'm going to give you money, maybe 100,000 or 100,000 US dollars to set up infrastructure, and he will ask you, how are you going to set up and how many are you going to set up? Okay, and then it will take very long to just set up because of transformer needs. It's going to, derail and discourage the investors. Yes. So I think, like you did mention, we have in place what is sufficient to encourage not only the production but the distribution of EVs. But what we should be considering more is what is the uptake from the private sector? How are they responding to it? Okay? And it's very important that we don't do that behind our desks, that we literally ask them. Yes, so we zero rated this. What is your perception about it? Okay, so I'll give you another example of spare parts. Okay, I know we're not talking about passenger vehicles, but if God willing, you get an EV and you need a spare part, it's hard to get it here. So what these garages do, they actually have to import them. They import an EV, dismantle it, and be able to, fix it. However, the car they are importing is taxed 25%. That also increases the price on the spare part. So even as we move to, saying that this one is zero rated, this one is not, we need to understand the dynamics of our mobility, especially around spare parts and garages. We need to know exactly where do they get their spare parts and how do they, work around it. Yes, so I would say a majority of the incentives, the ones that we have set, are also focused on the on the supply side. They're actually meant to spur local manufacturing. Like you did say, that is the priority. Local manufacturing and, setting up infrastructure and the rest. However, there is limited, with regard to the consumer, which other countries have done. And I don't want to only talk about the money. There are also other non-fiscal incentives that countries do. An example that the government could consider is for the number plates that we have. Okay? Some countries actually have a lower price registration for number plates of EVs in comparison to the other fuel-powered cars. This is an incentive that is meant to encourage the adoption, but also lower the prices, I would say upfront cost.
Yeah.
So beyond the ones that we have in place, it is important that we also see how we can package things that directly target the consumers. I know we have talked about commercialization and the public infrastructure. It's important that we also see what the local taxis, the local buses are looking at, and how best can we support them. And beside that, let's look at the garages and the spare parts. How best are we going to support them as well, even as we front the tax policy? Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. And so back to STM. I think I read somewhere that either slogan or something you use is converting innovation into GDP. And as URA, one of the things we're also always looking out for is tax to GDP ratio. So we've talked about the policy, the challenges and everything. Somehow most of the tax policy, I feel, is about reducing the cost. And we talked about the commercial side and how the commercial people get to benefit in the long run. But how does the country get to benefit in the long run with that goal of converting innovation to GDP? How does e-mobility help us as a country to achieve? How many dollars did you mention?
500 billion.
Yes.
Yes. I think every country, when you look at our e-mobility strategy, I think what the first annex has case studies of what other countries have done. But we had our true north, because as you're doing some of these interventions, you need a true north. Where are you pointing towards? What is your overall objective? Our overall objective is not just transition. We have realized that we are at a very pivotal moment where Uganda can be on the table when it comes to automotive manufacturing. And there's a saying, if you're not on the table, you're on the menu. Yeah, predominant of being on the menu when it comes to vehicles. We are a net importer of vehicles. I think financial 2024, we imported over $800 million of vehicles. So this is money we are sending out there and employing other people who are not in Uganda. So we're trying to change that. So some of the interventions in the short term, because I know people, I even recall during the time of the Russia-Ukraine, when it had an impact on our fuel, all these discussions, should we subsidize? And government was like, nope, let's hold on, because it might be sweet now to subsidize, but you'll feel the pain later. So let's endure so that we don't get into, and I've seen what has happened in some of the countries, even within the neighborhood, that subsidized, and the impact has had significant on their economy. So our interventions are very intentional on what our true north is. It's how do we ensure we increase our tax base instead of not always squeezing. That's why we have more cows to squeeze from, rather than one cow where I want to squeeze everything for the village.
Yeah.
So we are very intentional on the steps we are taking, so that we don't end up trapping ourselves to become a market for other people. We're trying to create the market here for ourselves and for us to be competitive regionally. So that is our intent, and that's how we are going to convert our innovation to GDP. Is these innovations we are working towards are intended to have products on the market, which products can be exchanged for money, which money goes into the economy, to catalyze and make more money. So we have worked on, because the government has invested directly in setting up manufacturing capabilities through Kira Motors. Since 2018, we have attracted over $160 million in investment in automotive manufacturing. and over 70% of that has come from government. The rest has been from private sector, especially on the two-wheeler side. Those are people who are doing local assembly of trucks here. So people doing parts manufacturing here, brake pads, filters, wiper blades, and many other things. So we're trying to see how we catalyze the entire automotive industry. Because right now, if you're talking about an engine has been in existence for over a century. We're saying let's start making our own engine now. You're 100 years behind. By the time you catch up, the engine will be no more. But the battery and the electric powertrain is a new thing. Of course, well, reality speaking, the electric vehicle was actually invented before the internal combustion engine vehicle. It was ahead of its time. At that time, the batteries were too bulky. It didn't make any sense to go that route.
Yeah.
So they abandoned. But now, it's back. So we are at a very pivotal moment where we can actually be on the table. And all efforts are towards getting us on the table and to be a prominent voice on that table. So how we are going to realize this is we're looking at manufacturing, we're looking at systems and data, and then we are looking at operations. So the operations is like the mass transit we're talking about, ride hailing, like the safe borders of this world that are helping us on uptake, but also on ensuring that there's safety on our roads and then you can access the vehicle when you need it, at the time you need it, and do ride sharing and things like that. Manufacturing, we are ensuring that the vehicles we are driving have been built by your son. So in a car, which your son built and earned some money off of it. And as a result of earning more money, they're able to put more money in the economy. Then on the systems and data, they say data is the new gold. It's been new gold for a few decades, but data is very important. And I'm sure the newer areas of data, especially when you're looking at balance of payment and all these things. So data is very important. Where the data is, that's where the power is. So how do we ensure that the data is here? EPRS is doing a lot of research in this space. We have these vehicles on the road, how we collect the data to inform systems we are building. We're sending a satellite in space. How do we ensure that we are collecting data about land use, where our minerals are, and things like that? So data becomes also extremely important in this conversation to make sure that we are competitive as well. And then you're going into new markets, how do we collect market data? Some of these guys, they come, they donate to you a bus as a country. You're happy, clap hands, not knowing that that bus is an entry into your market.
Yeah.
And they are using it to collect more. So how do we also have some of those smart techniques where we build these synergies, so that we can access these markets and bring in more cash flow back at home.
All right. As you are happy?
Everyone will be happy at the end of this.
And that's a country, of course. So as we prepare to close, I think being a Friday afternoon, we don't have too much. We have some viewers, but we don't have so much engagement. But of course, the engagement can carry on even after we've left the studio. This is just like a precursor, and this engagement can carry on. I believe the innovation and the research entities are also on social media, so we can carry on that conversation. But as we prepare to close, this question I'll direct to both of you. What's that one recommendation you'd make? Like if you are, I don't say if you are a president, but if you had all the power and you could just make a recommendation and something happened, what would that be? And also, how can this continue, or how can the different institutions continue to work together, to partner? Or what can the everyday person do in the grand scheme of e-mobility and the direction that we're taking, all the things that we've been talking about? Yeah. Who wants to go first? I think you should go first.
Okay, I will. Thank you so much, Josephine.
Yeah.
You asked two questions, but I'll start with the first one. And what is that one recommendation? The first thing that I would recommend, and the most important one, is awareness about the benefits of EVs broadly by all Ugandans is something that we should focus on. whether in the policy space, whether in the service space, amongst the importers of equipment, amongst the manufacturers, but also all stakeholders. Awareness is very key. And why do I bring awareness? There are things that we did not talk about. Things like what really happens after the batteries are dead. Do we have regulations? Yes, we do. But do they know about the extended producer's regulation? What happens? Who will take care of all these batteries at the end? Because we are looking at, we did talk about the true north. Yes, we are looking at the long term, where we are going. Okay, and then awareness with regard to how best can we, fill up the gap. He did talk about how much revenue we are spending in buying oil and the replacement that e-mobility presents. But how best can the government, and us as people, the right word is acknowledge that we shall be able to save. So awareness on the benefits, but also health-wise, it is very, at Makerere University, I'll give you, they have airport that measures the population, the pollution levels. So when you check out, I have something on my phone that shows me the pollution. And especially in the morning and in the evening, when there's a lot of movement, the pollution levels are red. It is so bad. So awareness on, e-mobility as a solution to this. Yeah, so that you can be able to accept and say, I'll leave my car home, I'll use an electric bus to work, or I'll use an electric motorcycle or bicycle, because we do have them. So awareness is very key because it changes our perceptions about this. It's not a government agenda, it is our agenda as a country. We need it, we need the mobility. Yes. So for the side of research, EPRC is committed to provide evidence across the entire e-mobility value chain, so that we'll be able to, harness this opportunity. He did mention this is a time and this is an opportunity where Germany and Uganda are almost at the same level. We have the opportunity to fight together in this space, but also because we have oil reserves. We haven't talked about it. Maybe in our subsequent meeting we shall talk about it. We do have the opportunity to have the petrochemical industry, where we can have all these parts that will move into the vehicle, the rubber, we need the polypropylene and the other things, the plastics. Then we also do have lithium in the country. How best can we as a country leverage this so that we can have our own manufactured locally, I would say, the local domestic agenda. Yes. So I would say we are open to continue serving the country and doing research. The research that I did mention about Is Uganda Ready will be up in a few weeks, I would say 3 weeks. And please follow us on our social media channels to be able to get more information in this regard. Otherwise, thank you for hosting us.
Thank you so much.
Yes. First of all, I'd appreciate those who stuck with us. Big ups. But I think I'll answer the question of what would I do last. Yeah, so that the one who is waiting for But I have, so at STI, and specifically in the Mobility Bureau, we have ensured that we have organized the ecosystem really well. And the success we have seen so far is as a result of that organization. 2021, when we just started, even people didn't know what other people were doing. So you find everyone is doing a small thing, not knowing that if they came together, it will be a much bigger thing. So one, I would like to appreciate all the players in the mobility space that have been willing to come together and we conversate. We have these conversations on how can we, because even that e-mobility strategy was actually written by all of us. It was not one person sitting behind a corner somewhere and doing their thing and then saying, here it is. No. we had a number of consultative meetings with all the players in all the sectors, and all those minds came together, and out came that strategy. I think what was very important, what was very beautiful to see was the cohesion came to purpose. We were all speaking the same language and came to purpose. And then maybe it's because most of the people in there were entrepreneurs. So it was easy to speak have the right conversation in the space. Now, I would also like to appreciate entities like Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development that in the specific program like the Clean Energy Access Project. Right now, there's a charging station at Amber House where I know the electric people can go and charge for free.
Yeah, there's one at Upper House.
Yes.
The one at Total.
Yeah, and then Total also has set up, and City Oil also has set up. But there's a government-owned charging station at Amber House, Kampala Road. Free for now. If you have an electric car, please just go and park and charge for free. It's fully funded by government. So I'd like to appreciate the Ministry of Energy. Ministry of Works also moved quickly because things to do with how do you register an electric vehicle. Because the logbook had engine number, engine type, CC. I'm sure you're having those challenges here at URA, and they harmonized that quickly. Yeah. And now we're able to be collect that data, know how many electric vehicles are in the market. Yeah. Of course, URA, you've also been very instrumental, especially when having conversations with the policy, tax policy department and Ministry of Finance, who have put in place these tax fiscal incentives like a 10-year income tax holiday, VAT exemptions, and excise duty and stamp duty exemptions on a specific manufacturers. So we appreciate that. Now, on what I would do if I had the power, I'll start my finger right now. Mindset change. Yeah. Mindset change, and that has been the real fundamental issue when it comes to innovations, uptake of innovation. You know, how we perceive Ugandan products, even when they are superior. Think Ugandan products. Yeah. When we're starting making cars, people are like, should we be making cars? Think we have bigger problems, but if we don't make the cars, who will? Yeah. Should we first wait for all these problems to fix before we start thinking about making cars? So that mindset on even uptake, I think about uptake, the myths and things like that. So if I had a magic wand, I would do what we call gene therapy. You modify the genes so that we can appreciate and see value, see opportunity. You know, we're seeing this e-mobility transition. There's a huge opportunity, commercial opportunity, business opportunity out there in parts manufacturing, electric vehicle charging. So what people see as challenge, problems, that people see opportunity and business. So that's the. Thank you.
All right, this is an interesting discussion, and personally, I would probably want to stay and listen more. But definitely, I know that a seed has been sown, and someone out there is picking up interest. Like we've all talked about awareness. I feel like it's a lower hanging fruit than the more costly thing for all of us to take some interest and get to know more about e-mobility, a greener Uganda, clean energy, from the smaller aspects like using gas instead of firewood, to savvy. I'm now going to start saving. What I like to pick lessons that relate to me as well. And start saving, and maybe I'll become a bus owner. Yeah, and then the buses are cool. I don't know if people have seen amazing. The buses are so cool. Part of Rotary, and there's a time we had to use one of them to make a long trip somewhere, and they were really cool. Good for content creation, fun to speak to the younger people, and take snap, take all these videos and all that. But the lighter side aside, let's take some interest to get to know about these things. And sometimes the thing, like we said, can seem abstract. Just to digress a little, I remember where I used to work before I joined DRA, before COVID came, when we were talking about this disease that's somewhere in China. Someone in the office said, me, I focus on what's in Uganda. Why would I stress myself with diseases that are all the way in China? But look at how that affected us. the whole world. Yeah. So sometimes a thing can look like, I have this other fuel car. I don't need the electric thing, but let's start to pay attention to these things, to get to know about these things. And sometimes when we're having these discussions, people always ask where does URA come into such a discussion. But as you've heard, where there's money, URA, we're there. But we're not only there to take the money, we want to see how we can use the policies that are there to help to further that agenda that we have to attain, that we need to, whatever we need to do to attain a greener Uganda, for all the people who are in that space. Because personally, one of the things I was thinking about was what benefit is there for the person in terms of taxes, the person who has the electric vehicle. Maybe when it comes to paying taxes, they may get some benefit. Yeah, there are other things you need to talk about. What are they? What they call it? Carbon something.
Carbon credits.
Carbon credit. Maybe when we finally take on such as a country, the person who's already driving the EV will have a better chance. Yeah. So there's so much to think about, so much for us to learn, and I'd like to really thank you, Philemon and Alan, for taking the time to come and talk to us. And we hope that we shall be able to have you in the future, and to also have the different entities. I hope the communications teams are online, so that if more of this conversation is happening online on the different social media platforms, that this conversation can go on. Thank you so much. And thank you so much to Avias for being with us. We apologize for the delayed start, but we thank you so much for being with us, for always being with us. And as we conclude the financial year, I can't help but say, please file your returns and pay taxes. Uganda needs you, and we need to continue developing Uganda together. Thank you so much, and be blessed.